They laughed at him for being just a poor night guard. They never knew he once owned half the city he protected. But when his secret finally came out, the same people who mocked him started begging for his mercy. This is the story they never saw coming. Hit subscribe, you'll never forget this story. Rain poured over the streets of Atlanta that night. Cars moved fast through the wet roads, their headlights flashing like little fires in the dark. The air smelled of rain, smoke, and tired dreams. Outside a tall glass building called the Prime Tower, a man stood in a dark blue security uniform. His name was Daniel Okoro. He was 36. Tall, calm, and quiet. His uniform looked clean but old. His black boots were worn out. His face showed peace, but his eyes told another story. Those eyes carried something: pain, memory, and a secret too heavy for words. Every night, Daniel guarded that same door. He saw expensive cars come and go. He saw rich men laughing and talking about millions while he stood in the cold, earning $12 an hour. But Daniel never complained. He was always polite, always respectful. To most people, he was invisible, just the night guard. But deep inside, Daniel knew something no one else did. He wasn't poor. He was hiding. Around 11:30 that night, a young man ran toward the entrance in a hoodie, soaked from the rain. "Stop right there," Daniel called out. "The building's closed." The boy gasped for breath. "Please, sir. I left my laptop inside. I work for Mr. Blake. I'll get fired if I lose it." Daniel looked at him carefully. It was Ethan, one of the new interns. A smart but nervous kid. Always rushing. Daniel sighed. "All right, let's go. I'll walk you in." The building was silent inside. The sound of their shoes echoed on the shiny floor. The air smelled like perfume and cleaning spray. Ethan found his laptop on his desk and smiled. "Thank you, sir. You're a lifesaver." Daniel nodded. "No problem. Be careful next time." As they walked back, Ethan asked, "You've worked here long, right?" Daniel gave a soft smile. "Long enough." "Don't you get tired? Staying here all night? Guarding doors for rich people?" Daniel looked ahead. "Everyone guards something. Some guard money. Some guard secrets." Ethan laughed, thinking Daniel was joking. But Daniel's face didn't change. He wasn't joking. The next morning, Daniel went home to his small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The walls were old, the paint fading, but the place was clean. Kids played outside, chasing a soccer ball through puddles. Before he could unlock his door, two little boys ran toward him. "Uncle D, our bike broke again." He smiled warmly. "All right, let's fix it." He spent almost an hour fixing the chain, laughing with the boys, and sharing juice boxes. Everyone in that area loved him. He helped people whenever he could, paid rent for neighbors, bought school shoes for kids, even helped a woman pay hospital bills once. People wondered how a security guard could afford that much kindness, but no one asked directly. Daniel was respected, quiet, private. When he finally went inside, he cooked noodles and sat at his small wooden table. The room was silent, except for the sound of rain outside. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down. The message read, "The foundation meeting is ready. We need your approval, Mr. Okoro." His face froze. No one called him Mr. Okoro anymore. Here, he was just Daniel, the night guard. He quickly deleted the message and sat still. His heart pounded in his chest. If anyone saw that message, everything would change. Because the truth was, Daniel wasn't poor. He was a billionaire, living like a nobody. That evening, when he reached work again, the place was busier than usual. Mr. Blake's son, Ryan Blake, had just returned from New York. Ryan was 28, young, rich, and full of himself. He was the kind of man who loved to show off his money and power. When Ryan saw Daniel at the door, he smirked. "Still guarding this place, old man? Must be fun watching real men make money while you freeze out here." Daniel smiled politely. "Good evening, sir." Ryan laughed. "You should apply for a better job. Maybe we'll let you sweep inside next time." Everyone nearby laughed, trying to please Ryan. Daniel didn't react. He just opened the door and said calmly, "Welcome back, sir." But Ryan didn't stop. He stepped close, lowering his voice. "He will. You'll die broke, Daniel. That's your story." Daniel looked him straight in the eyes. Ryan's smile disappeared. "What did you just say?" "Nothing, sir," Daniel replied. "Have a good night." Ryan frowned and walked away, angry. The others whispered but said nothing. Hours passed. Midnight came. The city outside was quiet again. Daniel sat behind his desk, reading a small notebook. The pages were filled with numbers, notes, and names. At the top it said, Blake Holdings, Charity Projects. It listed hospitals, schools, and orphanages, all funded by someone named Anonymous. But that someone was Daniel himself. He was the hidden donor behind every major charity linked to the company he worked for. Even Mr. Blake, his boss, didn't know. Daniel smiled softly as he looked at the list. He wasn't doing it for fame or thanks. He was doing it because once he had lost everything and he knew what pain felt like. But he also knew you can rebuild quietly. Years ago, Daniel's life was different. He had owned a tech company. He wore suits, traveled in private jets, and had everything people dream of, until his best friend betrayed him. That friend stole millions, blamed Daniel, and vanished. The scandal destroyed Daniel's name. His company fell apart. His wife, broken and sick from the stress, died soon after. After that, Daniel disappeared. He changed his name, sold his mansion, and moved to Atlanta. He became a night guard. No one knew the truth, and that's how he wanted it. But the past has a way of finding you, even when you run from it. It was almost 2 a.m. when Maria, the janitor, brought him a cup of coffee. "You never rest, Mr. Daniel," she said kindly. He smiled. "Sleep doesn't like me these days." She laughed. "One day, you'll own this building, I swear." Daniel smiled softly. "Maybe I already do." Maria laughed again, thinking it was a joke. But something about his tone made her pause. She had once seen him with a thick envelope full of $100 bills. Too much for a man earning minimum wage. Who really was Daniel Okoro? She didn't know it yet. But she was about to find out along with the rest of the city. Because the next night, everything would change. And what happened next shocked everyone. The rain returned that night, harder than before. The city lights of Atlanta blurred behind the water, running down glass walls. It was almost midnight. The office building had gone silent. Only the soft hum of the air conditioner filled the empty halls. Daniel stood at the entrance, holding his umbrella. His eyes wandered over the parking lot, where the last car had just left. The city outside looked tired like him. He leaned against the wall, took a slow breath, and pulled out a small photo from his pocket. It was old, the corners bent. It showed a young woman with bright eyes and a smile that could stop time. He whispered, "I miss you, Clara." Clara was his late wife, the woman who once believed in him when the whole world turned away. The memory hurt, but it was all he had left. He slid the photo back into his pocket and looked up at the sky. The thunder rolled, and a black Range Rover slowly pulled up near the front gate. Its tinted window rolled down halfway. A woman's voice spoke softly but firmly. "Mr. Okoro?" Daniel froze. That name again. Nobody at work called him Mr. Okoro. Here, he was just Daniel, the night guard. He turned slowly toward the car. The woman inside wore a white trench coat. Her hair was tied back neatly, and gold earrings glimmered under the streetlight. She looked elegant, powerful, like someone who belonged in a boardroom. Not in front of a guard post at midnight. Daniel's eyes widened. Angela? She smiled faintly. It's been a while, Daniel. His voice dropped to a whisper. What are you doing here? I told you before, you can't hide forever. Keep your voice down, he said quickly, glancing around. Not here. Angela Monroe was no ordinary visitor. She was the CEO of Monroe Tech, one of the biggest companies in the country. She and Daniel had a complicated past, one that could destroy everything if anyone found out. Angela stepped out of the car, her heels clicking softly on the wet ground. Still playing this role? She said quietly. Guarding a door that doesn't belong to you? Daniel sighed. It's not about the door, Angela. It's about peace. Peace? She frowned. You think hiding under a fake name is peace? You think pretending to be poor will erase what happened? Daniel's jaw tightened. You don't understand. I understand more than you think, she said, stepping closer. You lost everything, Daniel. Your company, your wife, your life. But disappearing? That's not healing. That's running. Daniel looked down. The rain kept falling, soaking his shoulders. Angela reached into her bag and pulled out a brown envelope. You'll need this tomorrow. It's time to come back. He didn't move. Angela, please, don't do this. You're on the board list again, she said. The investigation is reopening. People are asking questions. If you don't speak now, someone else will. Daniel stared at the envelope, his voice barely a whisper. I'm not that man anymore. She nodded slowly. Then who are you, Daniel? A ghost in a uniform? He said nothing. His silence said enough. Angela sighed. You're wasting your gift. You built half this city's progress, and now you're standing in the rain like a stranger. I built too much, he said quietly, and it cost me everything I loved. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of the rain filled the space between them. Then Angela placed the envelope on the security desk. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Read it before it's too late. She turned back toward her car. Angela, Daniel called softly. Why are you helping me? She looked back at him with tired eyes. Because I still believe in the man you used to be. Then she got into her car and drove off, the taillights glowing red through the rain. Daniel stood still for a long time. The city felt quieter than ever. He finally sat down, water dripping from his hair onto the desk. His hand trembled as he looked at the envelope. He slowly opened it. Inside were 3 documents. One was a news report, one a legal notice, and one a photograph. The headline on the paper made his chest tighten. Blake Holdings under federal audit, missing charity funds traced to off-book accounts. And below that, a name. Primary investor of interest. Raymond Blake. Daniel's eyes widened. Mr. Blake, the man he worked for, was under investigation. But there was more. A note at the bottom said, Anonymous donor records linked to original partner Daniel Okoro. His secret was out. If the investigators connected his real name, everyone would know who he truly was, the billionaire who vanished years ago, the man who lost everything in a scandal, now working as a night guard under the nose of one of the richest men in Atlanta. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his heart racing. No, not again. He looked around the quiet lobby, his voice trembling. I can't go through this twice. The next morning came too quickly. Daniel didn't sleep. He just sat in his room, staring at the papers again and again. The headlines, the names, the memories, they all came rushing back like a storm. At 5 a.m., his neighbor knocked. Uncle D, you forgot your umbrella yesterday. The little boy shouted from the door. Daniel forced a smile. "Thank you, Junior." He handed the kid a cookie. The boy ran off happily. As the door closed, Daniel looked around his apartment. It was small, quiet, peaceful. Everything his old life wasn't. But deep down, he knew peace built on a lie never lasts. He opened his closet and took out a locked metal box from the top shelf. Inside were old photos, a passport, and one shining black credit card. He hadn't touched that card in 5 years. He held it for a moment, staring at the gold letters on it. Then he whispered, "Not yet." He put it back in the box and locked it again. At work that evening, Daniel tried to act normal, but his mind was spinning. Ryan walked in with his usual arrogance. "Old man, didn't I tell you to clean the driveway? It's wet again." Daniel ignored him. Ryan frowned. "Are you deaf now? I said clean it." "Daniel," I finally looked at him. "You should be careful who you talk to like that, Ryan." Ryan laughed. "Or what? You'll hit me with your flashlight?" Before Daniel could answer, Maria came running from the elevator. "Mr. Daniel, they're talking about you on the news." Daniel froze. "What?" She pointed to the TV in the lobby. The headline read, "Anonymous billionaire donor revealed. Former tech CEO Daniel Okoro spotted in Atlanta." Everyone turned toward Daniel. Ryan's jaw dropped. "Wait, you?" The guards whispered. The receptionist gasped. Cameras started flashing. Daniel stood there, motionless, his quiet life collapsing in a single moment. Maria covered her mouth. "Oh my God, you're the one?" Ryan laughed in disbelief. "You? A billionaire? Don't make me laugh." But Daniel didn't respond. He took a deep breath, straightened his uniform, and said calmly, "Believe what you want." Then he walked away, the rain waiting for him outside, because the secret he'd hidden for years was finally out. And from that moment, nothing in his life or theirs would ever be the same again. The next morning, Atlanta woke up buzzing. Every news channel, every blog, every radio station, they were all talking about one thing: the security guard who turned out to be a hidden billionaire. Pictures of Daniel in his guard uniform filled the internet. Videos from the office cameras spread fast. People couldn't believe it. The man who opened doors and smiled quietly at everyone was richer than most of the people he worked for. At the Prime Tower, chaos filled the air. Reporters stood outside. Employees whispered. Phones rang nonstop. Inside the lobby, Ryan Blake paced back and forth, red with anger. "How could this happen?" he yelled. "Why didn't anyone tell me that old man was some billionaire?" Maria stood by the desk, nervous. "We didn't know, sir. None of us did." Ryan slammed his hand on the bled. "Counter. My father is furious. The board is calling an emergency meeting. They think he might own shares in our company." Daniel walked in quietly, wearing his usual uniform, holding his lunchbox. The room went silent. Ryan glared at him. "So it's true, huh? You've been lying to all of us?" Daniel looked calm. "I never lied. I just didn't tell." Ryan scoffed. "You played us. You wanted attention. That's what this is about." Daniel looked him straight in the eyes. "If I wanted attention, I would have walked in with a suit, not a flashlight." People gasped softly. Ryan's face turned red again. "You think you're smarter than me, don't you?" Daniel smiled faintly. "No, I just think differently." Before Ryan could reply, a voice echoed across the lobby. Raymond Blake, Ryan's father and the company's founder, walked in with two men in black suits. He looked serious, almost cold. "Mr. Okoro," he said, facing Daniel, "we need to talk." Privately, Daniel nodded and followed him into the elevator. The doors closed, leaving the office in silence. Inside the top-floor conference room, the city stretched out below like a sea of lights. Mr. Blake turned around slowly. "I trusted you," he said. "I treated you like family. Why hide your identity?" Daniel stayed quiet. "It wasn't about trust." "Then what was it about?" Blake's voice hardened. "You could have told me you were the same Daniel Okoro who built Technova. Do you have any idea how this makes me look?" Daniel looked him in the eyes. "I wasn't hiding from you. I was hiding from the world." Mr. Blake frowned. "You donated millions to my foundation under a fake name. Why?" "Why?" "Because I wanted to help without being seen," Daniel said calmly. "Money means nothing if it only buys your name in a headline." For a moment, Mr. Blake said nothing. His anger softened. "You're a strange man, Daniel. I don't know whether to thank you or fire you." Daniel smiled. "You don't have to do either. I was planning to leave anyway." Mr. Blake blinked. "Leave? Now? In the middle of this?" "Yes," Daniel said. "The truth is out. My time here is done." Blake sighed and nodded slowly. "You know, Ryan could learn something from you. He thinks money makes the man." Daniel smiled faintly. "It doesn't. Character does." As Daniel turned to leave, "Mr. Blake said, for what it's worth, thank you for helping my company and for humbling my son." Daniel nodded and stepped into the elevator, leaving Blake staring out at the skyline. Outside the building, dozens of cameras flashed. "Mr. Okoro, are you really a billionaire? Why did you work as a guard? Are you buying Blake Holdings?" Daniel said nothing. He just walked calmly through the crowd, his face quiet but unreadable. Maria watched from the door, holding back tears. She whispered, We knew you were different." Daniel gave her a small smile. "Take care of yourself, Maria." Then he walked away, disappearing into the morning fog. Across town, Angela Monroe sat in her office, watching the same news. She smiled slightly. "So, the world finally knows." Her assistant walked in. "Should I reach out to him?" "He'll come on his own. He just needs time." She leaned back in her chair and whispered, "You can't run forever, Daniel. Not from your purpose." Later that day, Daniel sat at a small cafe near the bus station. He wore a plain gray shirt, no uniform this time. People whispered as they passed by, pointing at him. "That's the guy from the news," someone said. "Can you believe it? A billionaire cleaning floors." He ignored them. He ordered black coffee and stared out the window. The world outside kept moving. Same cars, same people, same chaos. Only his world had changed. A young waitress approached him shyly. "Excuse me, sir. I saw your story on TV. You're amazing." Daniel smiled softly. "Thank you. But I'm just a man trying to live right." She smiled back. "Still, it's inspiring. People need stories like yours." Her words warmed him. Maybe his story could help someone. Maybe this wasn't the end, but the beginning of something else. That evening, Daniel returned to his apartment. For the first time in years, it felt smaller, not because of space, but because of the noise outside. News vans had parked on the street. Neighbors stood whispering and pointing. He quietly slipped inside and locked the door. His phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from old business partners, journalists, even banks offering new deals. He ignored them all. Then one message caught his eye. It was from Angela. "You've been silent too long. Meet me tomorrow at 7 p.m. Same place where it all ended." Daniel's heart raced. That place. The old Technova office now abandoned. The place where his entire life had fallen apart 5 years ago. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He didn't want to go back there. But deep down, he knew he had to. The next morning, Ryan sat in his father's office, angry and embarrassed. "You can't let that man walk away. He made a fool of us." Mr. Blake shook his head. "He made a fool of you, not us. Learn some humility, Ryan." Ryan clenched his fists. "I'll make him pay." His father looked at him sternly. "Don't. That man has more power in silence than you do in all your shouting." But Ryan didn't listen. He had already started planning something. Something that would push Daniel back into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. That night, the rain came again. Soft at first, then heavy. Daniel stood by his window, watching it fall. The city lights blurred again, just like the night it all began. He opened his drawer and took out the brown envelope Angela had given him. Inside, there was a document he hadn't seen before. It was a contract, one that linked Blake Holdings and Monroe Tech to a secret merger deal signed years ago under his old name. His name was still on it. His hands shook as he whispered, "What are you planning, Angela?" He didn't know yet, but the next 24 hours would change everything again. Because the man who wanted peace was about to be dragged right back into war. And what happened next, no one saw coming. The next day felt heavy. The clouds hung low over Atlanta, turning the whole city gray. Daniel didn't step outside all morning. His phone buzzed again and again. Reporters, old friends, investors, everyone wanted a piece of him now. He finally turned the phone off and sat quietly on his couch. The sound of the rain against the window mixed with the noise in his mind. At 7 p.m., he took a deep breath, grabbed his coat, and left his apartment. The streets were wet and shining under the streetlights. His taxi stopped in front of an old brick building. The faded sign still read, Technova Incorporated. Daniel's chest tightened. This was where everything had ended 5 years ago, where his best friend had betrayed him and the life he knew had burned down overnight. He walked inside slowly. The place smelled of dust and silence. Broken chairs, cracked glass, and faded posters filled the room. The memories hit him like a wave. "Still standing, huh?" a voice echoed. He turned. It was Angela Monroe. She wore a dark coat, her hair tied up neatly. Her eyes were sharp but sad. "You came," she said softly. "You left me no choice," Daniel replied. Angela walked closer. "You saw the contract, didn't you?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. My name's still on it." "Good," she said. "Because that means you still have power in Blake Holdings." Daniel frowned. "I told you, I don't want to go back." She sighed. "Daniel, listen to me. Blake Holdings and Monroe Tech are both under review. The board wants a merger. Ryan Blake is trying to take control before his father retires." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Ryan?" "Yes," she said. "He's planning to remove his father, and anyone who stands in his way, including you." Daniel's eyes darkened. "I don't care about the company anymore." "You should," Angela said firmly. "Because he's using your name. He's spreading lies saying you faked the charity funds and hid stolen money through fake donations." Daniel's body froze. "What?" Angela pulled out her phone and showed him a video. It was Ryan on live television. "He's calling you a fraud, Daniel. He says you hid behind the guard uniform to cover your crimes." Daniel's hands clenched into fists. "I never stole a thing." Angela looked into his eyes. "I know. But if you don't fight back, everyone will believe him." Daniel turned away, breathing hard. "I'm tired of fighting." Angela's voice softened. "And I'm tired of watching you run. You taught me years ago that truth wins only when it stands up." He looked at her quietly. "Why are you helping me, Angela?" She hesitated. "Because you helped me once. You believed in me when no one else did. And I owe you that. Daniel nodded slowly. All right. Tell me what to do. The next morning, news screens flashed everywhere. Breaking news. Former CEO, Daniel Okoro, accused of fraud by Blake Holdings heir. Reporters surrounded the Prime Tower. Ryan Blake arrived wearing a designer suit, pretending to be calm. He smiled at the cameras. It's sad, he said smoothly. But the evidence speaks for itself. The man's a fraud who used charity to clean stolen money. Inside the building, workers whispered. Do you think it's true? No way. Daniel's too kind for that. But Ryan Blake said there's proof. Maria stood near the elevator, shaking her head. That boy's lying. I know Mr. Daniel. He's no thief. Still, rumors spread like wildfire. That evening, a black SUV stopped outside the building. The door opened, and Daniel stepped out wearing a black suit for the first time in years. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed wildly. Mr. Okoro, is it true? Did you steal from Blake Holdings? Daniel didn't answer. He just walked inside with calm steps. In the lobby, Ryan stood waiting, surrounded by reporters. Well, look who decided to show up, Ryan said with a fake smile. Back to clear your name? Or confess? Daniel's voice was steady. You've said enough, Ryan. It's my turn. Ryan laughed. You think anyone will believe you? You're old news. Daniel stepped closer. Truth doesn't need to shout to be heard. Just then, Angela entered the building, followed by 2 federal auditors. Ryan's smile vanished. What is this? Angela spoke clearly. This is an official audit. We've traced the charity funds. The whole room went quiet. Angela handed a document to one of the reporters. Here's the truth. Every dollar came directly from Daniel Okoro's personal foundation. Not 1 cent was stolen. In fact, his money kept Blake Holdings alive when your accounts were empty. Gasps filled the air. Ryan stammered. That's impossible. Angela continued. You tried to pin fraud on a man who saved your father's company. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras zoomed in. Ryan's face turned pale. Daniel looked at him calmly. You said I'd die broke, Ryan. But I'd rather be broke and honest than rich and rotten. Ryan exploded. You ruined me. You think this is over? Security stepped in, as Ryan shouted and pushed against the cameras. Daniel turned away, silent, his eyes heavy with emotion. Outside, the rain started again, soft and cold. Angela joined Daniel under the front awning. You did the right thing, she said. Daniel sighed. Maybe. But it doesn't feel like victory. She nodded slowly. It never does. Doing the right thing rarely feels easy. He looked at her. What happens to Ryan? The board will handle him, she said. But they're offering you something, a chance to lead again. Daniel shook his head. I'm done with that life. Angela smiled. Then do something better. Start your own foundation. Help people, not companies. He looked out at the rain and nodded. Maybe that's what I was meant to do all along. She smiled softly. Now that sounds like the Daniel I remember. They stood quietly as thunder rolled in the distance. For the first time in years, Daniel felt light not because his name was cleared, but because he had faced his past without fear. As he walked away from the building, the cameras still flashed behind him. But he didn't look back. He had been poor, rich, broken, and reborn. And for the first time, he was free. But the storm wasn't over yet. Someone else was. Watching from a black car across the street, a man in a suit, holding a phone to his ear. He whispered, "He's back. Move forward with the plan." The car drove off into the night. Daniel had no idea that his greatest test was still coming. And what happened next would change everything again. 2 weeks passed since the storm at the Prime Tower. Atlanta had moved on, or at least, it looked that way on the surface. The reporters found new stories. The city lights went back to shining. But inside Daniel Okoro's heart, peace was still far away. He had cleared his name, yes. The world now knew he wasn't a thief. But that didn't fix the emptiness inside him. He still woke up at night hearing the echo of lies, betrayal, and Clara's voice in his dreams. That morning, he sat in a small community center downtown. The walls were newly painted, and a banner hung above the door. Okoro Foundation Building Hope for Tomorrow. Kids laughed in one room while volunteers carried food boxes in another. Maria stood near the entrance, organizing papers. "Mr. Daniel," she said with a smile. "The school supplies are ready." He nodded. "Good. Make sure every kid gets what they need." She smiled wider. "You've done something beautiful here." Daniel looked around and said softly, "Maybe. But it's only a start." His life had changed again. No more uniforms. No more hiding. Now he worked to give others what he wished someone had given him a second chance. But even as the laughter of children filled the hall, something deep inside him didn't rest. A shadow still followed him, a feeling that not everything was as it seemed. That afternoon, Angela Monroe walked into the foundation building, wearing a cream suit and dark glasses. "Nice place," she said, looking around. "You've done well." Daniel smiled politely. "Thanks to your advice." She laughed. "I just pushed you. You did the work." They sat in his small office. Through the glass wall, Daniel could see children playing outside in the rain. Angela placed a folder on his desk. "What's this?" he asked. "A proposal," she said. "Monroe Tech wants to partner with your foundation for a scholarship program." Daniel opened the folder. It looked good. Too good. The numbers were perfect. The terms clean. Almost too clean. He looked up at her. "Why are you really doing this?" Angela leaned back. "Because it's good business. And because I believe in what you're doing." Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. "You never do anything without reason, Angela." She smiled faintly. "And you never stop doubting people." He sighed. "Can you blame me?" For a moment, silence filled the room. The sound of the rain outside grew louder. Angela looked at him, her voice softer now. "I never wanted to hurt you, Daniel." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, her hands tightening around her bag. "Back then, at Technova, when everything went wrong, I wasn't just a bystander." Daniel's heartbeat slowed. "What are you saying?" She looked away. "Your partner, the one who betrayed you. He used my name to close that deal. I helped him, without realizing what he was doing." The room went silent. Daniel stared at her, unable to speak. "I thought it was a normal contract," she continued. "But when the scandal hit, I panicked. I should have come forward, but I didn't. I was scared." Daniel's voice came out low and sharp. "You knew?" "Not everything. Not at first. But when I found out, it was too late." He stood up, anger flashing in his eyes. "You let me take the blame. You let my wife die believing I was a thief." Angela's eyes filled with tears. "I was young, stupid, and selfish. I've lived with that guilt every day." Daniel turned away, his hands shaking. "You could have told the truth. You could have stopped everything." She whispered, "I know, and I'll never forgive myself." He stood by the window, watching the rain pour harder. "Why now? Why tell me this after all these years?" "Because you deserve to know, and because the same man who ruined your life, he's back." Daniel turned sharply. "Who?" Angela swallowed hard. "Patrick, your old partner. He's the man behind the car that's been following you." Daniel's chest tightened. "He's in Atlanta?" Angela nodded. "He's working under a new name." He's trying to buy your foundation through fake donors. He wants control again. And revenge. Daniel's jaw clenched. Let him try. Later that night, Daniel drove through the city, lost in thought. The rain had slowed, but the street still glistened under the streetlights. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. He remembered Patrick's smile, the handshake that ended in betrayal, the deal that destroyed everything. He whispered, "You took my life once. Not again." When he reached his apartment, a black envelope sat under his door. No address, no name. Just a seal, the same one Patrick used years ago for his company. Daniel opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "You can't build peace on stolen stones. See you soon, old friend." Daniel stared at it, his breathing quick. His eyes hardened. "You want a war, Patrick? Fine." He sat down and pulled out his phone. He called Angela. "He's making his move," he said. "I know," she replied. "Be careful, Daniel. He's not the same man he used to be." Daniel's voice was steady. "Neither am I." The next morning, Daniel gathered his small team at the foundation. Maria, Ethan, and a few volunteers stood around the table. He looked at them seriously. "I won't lie to you. Someone's trying to take us down. But this place isn't just mine, it's ours. We built it with honesty, and no one will destroy that." Maria nodded, her eyes firm. "We're with you, sir." Ethan clenched his fists. "Who's behind it?" Daniel said quietly. "A ghost from my past." The room fell silent. But in that silence, something powerful formed loyalty. That night, Daniel drove to an address. Angela sent him an empty warehouse on the city's edge. The air smelled of oil and danger. His footsteps echoed as he walked inside. A shadow moved in the darkness. Then a voice spoke deep, confident, and cold. "5 years, Daniel. And you still look the same." Daniel froze. "Patrick!" A man stepped out of the shadows, wearing a black coat and a smirk. His eyes burned with greed and pride. "You survived," Patrick said. "I thought you'd be broken forever." Daniel's voice was calm. "You destroyed everything I loved. My wife, my name, my peace." Patrick laughed softly. "And yet here you are, rich again, famous again. I guess I taught you well." Daniel's fists clenched. "You taught me how evil looks, in a nice suit." Patrick's smile faded. "Careful, Daniel. I didn't come to fight. I came to finish what we started." "Which is?" Daniel asked. Patrick's eyes narrowed. "Control. You built this new life, this foundation. But it's still money, still power, and I want it." Daniel stared at him. "You'll never touch it." Patrick smiled darkly. "We'll see." As Daniel turned to leave, Patrick added quietly, "Say hello to Angela for me." Daniel stopped. His heart pounded. He turned back slowly. "What did you just say?" Patrick grinned. "Oh, Daniel. You still don't see it, do you?" Before Daniel could speak, Patrick stepped back into the shadows and disappeared through a side door. Daniel stood alone, surrounded by echoes and fear. The rain began again outside, soft but steady. He looked up and whispered, "Angela, what have you done?" Because suddenly, he wasn't sure who his real enemy was anymore. And what happened next would shatter everything he thought he knew. The rain slowed to a light mist as Daniel drove back from the warehouse, but inside his chest the storm was loud. Streetlights stretched like long ropes of gold across the wet road. Wipers beat a slow rhythm. His phone buzzed on the passenger seat. It was Angela. He didn't answer. Not yet. He needed to breathe. He needed to think. He parked by the river where the city skyline cut the clouds like a silver knife. The water moved dark and steady. He stepped out, pulled his coat tight, and let the cold air hit his face. In the reflections, he saw a man who had been many things: husband, founder, guard, and now, a target again. His phone kept buzzing. Finally, he picked it up and called. Angela answered on the first ring. "Daniel, where are you?" he asked, voice low. "Come to the foundation office," she said. "Please. I need to tell you everything before someone else does." He hesitated. "Patrick mentioned you. He said your name, like a threat." Silence breathed down the line. "Then you should come," she said softly. "Because there's something you don't know about me." He drove without music. Just the hum of the engine and the ache of memory. When he reached the foundation, the hall lights were dim. The room's empty except for a soft glow from his office. Angela stood by the window, arms folded, eyes red like she hadn't slept. "Lock the door," she said. He did. "Talk." She didn't sit. She stared at the city. "You want the truth? Here it is. Patrick and I share the same father." Daniel blinked. "What?" "He's my half-brother," she said, turning around. "I didn't know when I first met him. He knew about me long before I knew about him." Daniel's heartbeat thudded in his ears. "You were helping him all along?" "No," she said quickly. "Listen to me. Years ago, when Technova was rising, Patrick came to me with a deal. He used my closeness to you to get access. I thought it was a normal partnership. But when the scandal hit, I discovered who he really was and that he had dirt on my family. He blackmailed me to stay quiet." Daniel stepped back, sick to his stomach. "So, you let me burn." "I was a coward," she whispered. "I'm not making excuses. I should have come forward. But he threatened to ruin my mother. He had documents, recordings, everything. He wanted you destroyed, and he wanted me silent." Daniel's voice cracked. "Clara died, thinking I was a thief." Angela flinched. "I know, and I will carry that forever." He pressed his hands on the desk and breathed through the fire in his chest. The room seemed smaller. The past felt closer than ever. "But why expose me now?" he asked. "Why push me back into the light?" She swallowed. "Because he was moving again. He started buying small stakes in your foundation through shell donors. He wanted to control your board and make you sign a new partnership that it would tie your name to his crimes again. The only way to stop him was to make you unhideable. If the world knew who you were, he couldn't erase you quietly." Daniel stared at her. That strategy felt like saving a man by throwing him into the ocean and praying he could swim. "You decided my life for me. I tried to save your life," she said, eyes wet. "Maybe I failed at both." He turned away. The copy machine hummed in the back office, the only sound in the building. "There's more," he said. "I can hear it in your voice." She nodded. "Clara reached out to me before she passed." He froze. "What?" "She sent me an audio message months before the scandal exploded. She said she knew you. That if anything ever happened, I should protect you from Patrick. She asked me to keep a box for you until you were ready." Angela took a small black flash drive from her purse and set it on the desk. "The message is on this." Daniel's hand shook as he picked it up. "You kept this from me. I was ashamed," she said, "and afraid. But fear has ruined enough." He plugged the drive into the laptop. The speaker hissed, then a soft voice filled the room, warm, steady, breaking only at the edges. "Danny, if you're hearing this, it means things got hard. I want you to know. I believe you. I always have. Don't let shame bury you. Give your goodness away even if no one claps. Love loud, live quiet. And when you're ready, build something no lie can break." Daniel pressed his fist against his mouth. Tears slid down his face without sound. He closed his eyes and saw Clara's smile again, a son he had been living without. He let himself cry fully to the floor, to the truth, to the woman who still held him together from the other side of a memory. Angela turned away, giving him privacy. The audio ended. The room felt holy and heavy. After a long silence, Daniel stood. His voice was raw, but calm. "Thank you for bringing this." She nodded. "I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not there yet," he said. "But I hear you." He wiped his face and looked at the city. For the first time in years, grief felt like a bridge, not a prison. But what Angela said next froze him in place. "There's one last thing," she said. "Patrick didn't only frame you. He redirected Clara's medical funds the week she needed them most through a technical error in your company account. He wanted you to break. He made sure you would." Daniel stared at her, breath gone. "He did that?" She nodded, shaking. "I found the records last month. I couldn't sleep for days. I'm sorry." A deep, old pain roared awake inside him, hot and wild. He grabbed the chair to steady himself. Then he went very still. When he spoke, his voice was flat, almost quiet. "Then we end him. Not with fists. With truth." Angela nodded slowly. "I'm ready. If this story moves you, stay close and subscribe for more." They worked through the night. Angela called her legal team and a federal contact who owed her a favor. Daniel looped in a forensic accountant from the charity network. Maria made coffee for everyone and guarded the front door like a soldier. Ethan set up a secure drive and scanned old files, cross-checking dates and signatures. The air in the office buzzed with focus. Outside, dawn began to blue the edges of the city. By sunrise, they had a map of Patrick's shell donors, a timeline of the sabotage at Technova, and a document showing the error that stopped Clara's hospital payment. Facts, receipts, truth that could stand alone even when shouted at. Daniel stared at the board they had pinned together. His life looked like a crime scene and a resurrection at once. "Go home," he told the team. "Rest, shower, eat. We move at noon." Maria lingered. "Sir, I'm proud of you." He smiled, tired but grateful. "I'm trying to be a man Clara would still recognize." When they left, the office fell quiet. Daniel stood alone by the window, hands in his pockets, watching the city wake. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered. A voice he knew too well slid through the speaker. "Old friend," Patrick said, smooth as oil. "Heard you're busy printing fairy tales." Daniel didn't blink. "We have the records." "Cute," Patrick said. "I have something better." "What?" Patrick laughed softly. "Check your foundation account." Daniel opened his laptop. Fingers cold. He logged in. For a second, nothing looked wrong. Then the numbers shifted. A wire transfer appeared, large and ugly, with his name as the authorizer. Another flagged note popped up. Funds moved to an offshore trust, tied to his old company. His heart dropped. "No." Patrick's voice brightened, like a game show host. "Looks like you stole from the poor, Daniel. You won't get away with this." "Who said I will? I just need you to drown before I do." The call ended. An email pinged a bank alert. Then another. Then a news notification. Breaking. Okoro Foundation under suspicion. After overnight transfer. Daniel's breath went shallow. He called Angela. He planted it. He moved money and stamped my name on it. "I'm already on with the bank," she said. "Hold on." He paced the office. Sirens grew louder outside. He thought of Clara's voice telling him not to hide. He stood taller. The glass doors burst open. Two officers stepped in with a federal agent and a stack of papers. "Mr. Okoro," the agent said, voice firm. "We need you to come with us to answer questions about an unlawful transfer." Ethan rushed in from the hallway. "Wait. We have proof it's a spoofed authorization." "Save it for the station," the agent said. Daniel raised his hands, calm. "I'll come. But before we leave, I need you to see this." He turned the screen to show the transfer path mapped by their forensic tool IP addresses, device fingerprints, the timestamp that placed the origin across town at a server farm. Patrick's dummy company rented under a fake name. Evidence. A thread begging to be pulled. The agent studied the screen, eyes narrowing. "Email that to me. Now." Daniel sent it. The agent's phone vibrated. He read quickly, jaw tightening. "We're not arresting you yet," he said. "But you're coming in." Daniel nodded. "Good. I'm done running." They walked him toward the door. Cameras flashed through the glass. Voices shouted his name. He kept his head high, heart steady, Clara's voice like a hand on his back. But the next message shattered him in a new way. Angela's text lit his phone as they reached the car. "Daniel, don't panic. I have the server credentials. I can undo this. But to get them, I met Patrick last night. He recorded us. He'll leak it. I'm sorry." He closed his eyes for half a second. The city noise faded. He could almost hear rain again, though the sky was clear. He typed back, "Do what you must. I'll carry the heat. Just save the foundation." The agent opened the car door. Daniel looked once at the building he had turned into hope. Then he got in. Across the street, a black sedan idled. Patrick watched with a bored smile, then lifted his phone and pressed play on a video labeled, "Angela Confession." He whispered almost kindly, "Checkmate." Only this time, the board wasn't his alone. Because what Patrick didn't know was that Clara's message had lit a fire in Daniel that no storm could put out. And Angela, broken, guilty, but brave, was about to break her own chains in front of the whole world. What happened next would split the city in two and choose who Daniel really was, once and for all. The police car cut through downtown Atlanta as dawn broke, its siren echoing between glass towers. Inside the back seat, Daniel sat quietly, hands cuffed, eyes fixed on the horizon. His face looked calm, but his mind was running wild. He thought of Clara's voice from the recording. "Build something no lie can break." He whispered the words again like a prayer. At the federal station, reporters had already gathered. Flashlights flickered as Daniel stepped out. "Mr. Okoro, did you steal from your own foundation? Are the rumors true?" He didn't answer. He just kept walking, his shoes splashing through puddles from last night's rain. Inside, a tall agent named Collins sat across from him. "Mr. Okoro, this isn't looking good. The transfers came from your account." Daniel looked him straight in the eyes. "Then you know how deep this goes." "Someone's framing me again. Same man, same method." Collins leaned back, studying him. "You've been in this position before. Why should I believe you this time?" Daniel said quietly. "Because last time, I didn't fight back. This time, I will." The agent didn't answer, but something in Daniel's calm voice made him pause. He slid a file across the table. "We'll verify your claim. Until then, stay close." Across town, Angela's office looked like a war zone. Papers covered the desk, screens flashed data. Phone lines buzzed non-stop. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Maria burst in holding a laptop. "We traced the fake transfer." Angela spun around. "Where?" "Offshore. But the route goes through a Monroe Tech server farm." "One of ours." Angela froze. "Patrick's using my company now." Ethan walked in, breathless. He's sending journalists fake documents that make Daniel look guilty. We have maybe 2 hours before they go public. Angela clenched her fists. Not this time. She called her lawyer. I need a press conference. Ready. In 1 hour. Send every file I've sent to the federal office. Then she looked at Maria and Ethan. You two follow that money trail. I want Patrick exposed before the world opens its eyes. Maria nodded. We're on it. Angela closed her eyes for a second. Please, Clara, she whispered. Let me make this right. At the station, Daniel sat alone in a waiting room. Rain started again, tapping softly on the windows. He remembered his first night as a security guard, how he had found peace in silence, how he had promised himself he'd never let anger guide him again. But now, silence was the enemy. He looked up as Agent Collins returned. You're free to go for now, Collins said. We found something interesting. Daniel stood. What? Your account was accessed from a network registered under a fake business name, but the IP belongs to Monroe Tech. Daniel's heart sank. Angela? Collins shrugged. We don't know yet. But she's calling a press conference. Daniel grabbed his coat and left before Collins could stop him. The Monroe Tech headquarters looked like a beehive. Cameras, microphones, and reporters crowded the steps. Angela stood behind a podium, calm but pale. Good afternoon, she began. There's been a misunderstanding about recent accusations against Mr. Daniel Okoro. I'm here to clarify the truth. The crowd murmured. Angela continued. Yes, the suspicious transfers came through a Monroe Tech server. But that system was hijacked by a hidden administrator, my half-brother, Patrick Monroe. A ripple of shock passed through the crowd. Cameras zoomed in. She held up a document. We have digital proof. The same IP address that triggered the false transaction was used to move millions in stolen corporate funds years ago under his name. The reporters exploded with questions. Angela's hands shook, but she held her ground. Patrick Monroe is responsible for framing Mr. Okoro, both in the past and today, she said firmly. And I will testify to that in court. The flashbulbs flickered like lightning. The truth was out, at least, part of it. Daniel arrived just as she finished speaking. The crowd parted when they saw him. He walked up the steps slowly, the rain glinting on his shoulders. Angela turned. Their eyes met, one full of guilt, the other full of exhaustion. You didn't have to do that, Daniel said quietly. Yes, I did, she whispered. I owed it to Clara. I owed it to you. Reporters shouted for comments, but Daniel lifted his hand. No statements today, he said calmly. The truth is already speaking loud enough. The crowd applauded softly as he guided Angela inside the building. Inside the quiet of her office, she sank into her chair, trembling. He'll come for me now, she said. Patrick doesn't lose quietly. Daniel looked at her. Then we don't stay quiet either. He picked up her office phone and called Agent Collins. You have everything you need. It's time to bring him in. Collins' voice crackled through the line. Already ahead of you. We've got eyes on him. Daniel nodded. Then let's finish this. At an old luxury penthouse across town, Patrick poured himself a glass of whiskey, watching the press conference replay on his TV. He laughed, slow and low. Clever girl, he muttered. You think you can beat me with paperwork? He picked up his phone and dialed. Yes. Move the plan. Tonight. End both of them. His bodyguard nodded and walked out. Patrick smiled coldly. It's time the city remembers who built its monsters. Back at Monroe Tech, Daniel and Angela reviewed files in silence. The storm outside grew stronger again, wind howling through the windows. Angela looked up suddenly. Do you hear that? Daniel turned. The power flickered. Then the emergency alarm started to wail. Fire alarm? She asked. Daniel frowned. No, That's not a drill. Smoke began to seep under the office door. Angela's eyes widened. Oh my God. Daniel ran to the door, opened it, and saw flames licking down the hallway. Someone had set the lower floor on fire. He shouted, "We have to move!" They grabbed what they could and rushed toward the emergency stairs. The building lights blinked. The smoke thickened, and panic filled the air. On the first landing, Angela coughed hard, her vision blurring. Daniel wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "Stay with me." They pushed through the exit door and burst into the cold rain outside. Fire trucks roared in. Sirens wailed. The building glowed orange behind them. Angela collapsed on the sidewalk, coughing. Daniel knelt beside her, pulling her close. Through the chaos, he whispered, "He's desperate now. That means we're close." She nodded weakly. "Don't stop, Daniel. No matter what happens." He held her tight. "I won't." But when he looked back at the burning building, he saw something that froze his blood. A dark silhouette stood across the street, umbrella in hand, watching. Patrick. Their eyes met through the smoke and rain. Patrick smiled, then turned, and disappeared into the crowd. Daniel stood slowly, the flames reflecting in his eyes. "This ends tonight," he said. And he meant it. The rain didn't stop that night. It came down in thick silver lines that turned the streets into mirrors. Atlanta felt breathless, like the whole city was waiting for something to break. Daniel stood alone in the parking lot outside the burning building, watching the flames fade under the sirens. Angela sat on the sidewalk, wrapped in a blanket, surrounded by medics. He walked over quietly. "You need a hospital," he said. She shook her head. "No, we finish this tonight." Her voice was weak but steady. Daniel nodded. He understood. They had both run long enough. At midnight, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Riverfront warehouse. Come alone. Bring the files if you want her to live." Daniel froze. He looked up. The ambulance where Angela had been sitting was empty. He clenched his jaw. Patrick. He didn't call the police. He didn't call Collins. Some fights, he knew, had to be ended face to face. He drove through the wet city, headlights slicing the mist. His hands were tight on the wheel, his mind flashing back Clara's voice. The betrayal. The second chance that had almost slipped away again. The warehouse stood by the dark river, huge and quiet, its windows glowing dim orange from a few burning lamps inside. He stepped out into the rain and walked in slowly. Patrick was waiting. He sat in a leather chair, like a king in exile, a gun glinting beside him, Angela tied to a pole behind. Her mouth was covered with tape, eyes wide but defiant. "Welcome back, partner," Patrick said. "You never learn." Daniel stayed calm. "Let her go. This is between you and me." Patrick chuckled. "You always make it about honor. That's why you lose." "You've already lost," Daniel said quietly. "The files, the accounts, your shell companies, they're all in federal hands by now. You're done." Patrick smirked. "Maybe. But so are you. Once I'm gone, that video of Angela confessing to her involvement will leak. She'll take the fall, and you'll be branded a fool again." Daniel stepped closer. "You think the world still believes you? They've seen who you are." Patrick grabbed the gun, spinning it in his hand lazily. "The world believes whoever speaks first, and I'm always first." The rain hammered the metal roof. Lightning flashed through broken windows, painting them both in white for a second. Daniel took a breath. "You killed my wife, Patrick. You stole everything. But you never took my soul. And tonight, I take back the truth." Patrick laughed. "Big words from a man in cuffs hours ago." Daniel smiled faintly. "Not cuffs. Proof." He tapped his pocket. Patrick frowned. "What are you?" Daniel held up a small line voice recorder. "The line's been open since I got your text. Agent Collins is listening." Patrick's face dropped. "You're bluffing." Outside, a faint wail rose, the echo of sirens cutting through the rain. Angela's eyes lit up behind the tape. Patrick turned, panic flickering for the first time. "No, no, no, no." He ran for the side door, but Daniel moved fast, blocking his way. "It's over." Patrick swung the gun wildly. "You should have stayed dead." Daniel grabbed his wrist. The gun went off one deafening blast. The bullet shattered a light bulb above them. Sparks fell like stars. They struggled for a moment until the door burst open and agents flooded in, shouting, "Drop it! Hands where we can see!" Patrick froze, eyes wide, realizing the game was truly over. Collins himself stepped forward. "Patrick Monroe, you're under arrest for fraud, arson, extortion, and attempted murder." Patrick dropped the gun, breathing hard. "You think that prison can hold me?" Collins smiled. "We'll find out." Angela sobbed behind the tape as officers untied her. Daniel knelt and ripped the tape off gently. "You're safe now." She nodded, tears mixing with rain. "I thought you wouldn't come." He smiled, softly. "I told you I don't run anymore." Patrick was dragged out, shouting Daniel's name like a curse. But Daniel didn't look at him. He looked at Angela, then at the night sky cracking open with lightning. He felt Clara close somehow, her words still warm in his chest. By morning, the news had exploded across every channel. Patrick Monroe, arrested security guard Billionaire, clears his name once and for all. Reporters filled the streets outside the Okoro Foundation. People cheered when Daniel arrived. He didn't wave or pose. He just smiled, simple and tired. Maria hugged him tightly. "You did it." Daniel shook his head. "We did it." Inside, the office was still smoky from last night's chaos. But the team was already rebuilding. New boxes, new plans, new hope. Angela sat at his desk, bandaged but smiling. "You're free now," she said. "So are you," he replied. She looked down. "I'll probably face charges for hiding the truth back then." "Then face them," Daniel said gently. "That's how you start clean." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "You forgive me?" Daniel looked at her for a long moment. "Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about letting the pain stop leading you." She covered her mouth, crying softly. "Thank you." He smiled. "Thank Clara. She taught me how." Months later, the Okoro Foundation had grown. New centers opened in 3 cities. Children laughed in bright classrooms, named after Clara Okoro. Daniel spent his mornings visiting the centers, and his nights quietly at home, sometimes standing by the window, watching the rain. Angela worked beside him, still paying her debt, but smiling more now. Maria managed the staff. Ethan ran the tech side. The once broken man had become the root of something alive. One afternoon, a reporter asked him during an interview, "Mr. Okoro, what's the secret behind your success?" Daniel chuckled softly. "There's no secret, just truth. Even when it hurts, it heals better than any lie." He paused, then added, "People think I became rich again. But real wealth isn't what you keep, it's what you give without expecting applause." The audience applauded quietly. He smiled, humble as always. Later that evening, as the cameras left, he stood alone by the window again. The sunset turned the city gold. He whispered, "I did it, Clara. I built something no lie can break." A soft knock came at the door. It was Maria. "Sir, the kids are asking if you'll come tell a story before dinner." Daniel smiled. "Of course. Stories are how we keep the light alive." He walked down the hallway, laughter echoing ahead of him, his all footsteps calm and sure. Outside, the sky cleared for the first time in weeks. The rain stopped. The city glowed. The security guard who once hid from the world had become its quiet guardian. And for everyone watching, one truth rang clear. Sometimes life buries you to see if you can grow back stronger. Sometimes the poorest man in the room is the richest in heart. And sometimes, the biggest comeback comes from the quietest soul. If this story moved you, stay close and subscribe for more.